Okay, so today I'm going to show you around this Bavaria motorboat Sport 32 HT, and the HT stands for hardtop. Quite a rare boat, as most of these boats were open back in the day, and this is a 2007 model. Okay, so the Bavaria motorboat, first of all we want to show you the walk-on, and it's quite interesting. Today though, the boat is being presented by myself, and in fact I've owned this boat for 4 years myself, and currently it is now for sale through my own brokerage, Parker Adams Boat Sales. And we're going to show you around the features and the things I've learned over the last 4 years that are a benefit to the boat, and things that this boat has over other boats of a similar size, and also the difference between the hardtop and the soft top. Okay, so this is the stern of the boat, and I'm showing you this today is because there's a couple of quite interesting things that you might not have realised. And the first thing is actually the size of the boat. Now this boat is 9.87 metres, so it's just below the 10 metre bracket when it comes to mooring. And as we know, once we get to 10 metres and over, we then have to go on to at least an 11 and maybe a 12 metre mooring. So being 9.87 metres, it actually saves you a lot of money in the long run. Now some of these boats do have a wider bathing platform on the back to enable better side access, but it then takes you over that 9.87 metres. So being without this, it's still a very generous size of bathing platform. We have a fender basket here, and one of the clever things about it is the walk around is both sides, and as we can see there's actually a step here for when the covers are down we can actually still walk around the boat. Okay, so we can also, when the covers are down, there's a step inside that we can use when the cover is down at the back. And again, that's quite unusual and something that I quite like. The fact, especially the other one, when the covers are down, you can still walk around. There's an awful lot of boats that you can't actually do that with. When the covers are down, you can't get around from the rear around to the side decks, but with this boat you can. Also, we have a transom shower, which is quite generous, with a hot and cold option tap, and we have an emergency manual bilge pump fitted to the back. Okay, so the other unusual thing about this boat, other boats of different makes, is the fact that most boats, when you want to infill to make into a lounging area, you have to go and find your cushions from below, you have to get your pole out, stick the lower pole in, put the cushions and the table down, and it's all a bit faffy. But Bavaria, if you don't know already, has a very simple solution to this. And simply this back comes forward, and this back comes forward, and there we are, straight into lounger mode. Okay, so as we can see, a very generous walk around, and this is the same both sides. There isn't one side wider than the other. There's also a good handrail along here as well, and also there's actually a very generous space on the front here. And as you can see, I am 6 foot tall, and if I lay down, you can see a very generous space down here. And if I had a drink in my hand, a gin and tonic, I've got a choice of 6 cup holders to put it in. And I think I'll just stay here for a little while longer. One of the great things about this boat is the hardtop. It's fantastic all year round boat, because if it starts raining, you're under cover. If it's windy, you don't get any wash from the waves coming over you, and even on a relatively calm day, as soon as you get out into the Saloon or out into any waterway, the first bit of wash you go through, you will get soaked. With the hardtop, this just doesn't happen. But we all like the feel of an open boat as well. But the other benefit of this hardtop is we can open it up. So simple things, we can open these little windows. No little windows. But the other benefit is that we have a sunroof that we can open up as well. Now this sunroof on most smaller hardtop boats, they're manual. You have to do some catches, you have to faff around. And if you're driving at the time and you want to put the roof back, it's very easy. You do it at a touch of a button. And as it opens up, the light starts flooding in, the air starts coming around, and you really feel like you're out in an open boat. Simple as that. And now it's a lovely open feel to the boat. Right, I just want to show you the rear seating area quickly. As said before, I'm actually 6 foot, so we do have 6 foot of clearance here, and it does actually get more generous as we go into where the hardtop area is, even with the hardtop shut. There's enough seating here for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe 7 at a push, and believe me, I've had that many people around here. We also have the option of a pedestal table, so a pedestal fits here and a table will fit on here as well. And one of the benefits about this is that when you are sat around and you don't want the table in place, we've actually got a work surface here we can put things on, and also we can open it up and we have a sink and another surface here. Also, as we all like to have a drink when we're sat around, we have an outside fridge with freezer compartment. Again, quite unusual to have the freezer compartment on the outside fridge, and again, quite generous in space. The other thing as well, when we're sat around with our drinks, we actually have the option of 6 cup holders, so 1 each. And again, very open, airy back here as well, and very comfortable again when we're going along at speed. But it's not the only seating options. Up the front here, another generous curved seating area, so we can accompany the captain, and there's enough seating here for 3. And again, we can also have forward facing as well. The captain's seat, as you can see, is here, and there's actually an option that I fitted was actually to turn it into a seat we can spin around. So now the captain can join in with the conversation when he's not driving, of course. It would be fairly interesting to be driving like this, wouldn't it? But he can if he wants to. Again, very generous seating area, and in total, if we have 6, 7, 8, 9, we can have 10 people sat in the cockpit area relatively comfortably. And in fact, I have had 12 here, but that's another story. Okay, and for convenience, the battery switches are all positioned externally here. So when you walk on, you can switch them straight on. They're also removable as well for security. And we have 1 for each engine, 1 for the domestics, and 1 for the bow thruster. Once again, at a different angle, I'm just going to show you the fridge again so you can see inside, as well as a couple of other things. The fridge, you can see we can hold drinks. That is actually wine bottles you can get in there, and you can get champagne bottles in there. A nice, generous, full width freezer for getting ice in, and plenty of alcohol here. This the Stella Artois wasn't present. It's not normally my first choice, but I do enjoy it. And for convenience, because we've got the hardtop, in the winter period, once the roof is shut, the windows are up and the covers are down, it's actually a very nice living area. So it's a second living area to the other living area that I'm going to show you down below, but it's a very nice place to be, even on colder days. And for the convenience of being out here, there's also a external diesel heater blower outlet. So this has a Webasto heater built into the boat, and we have an outlet in the head as well as in the aft cabin, in the main cabin, and also we have one fitted in the cockpit. So in the winter the whole boat is very toasty indeed. You may have noticed me push the button for the sunroof, and it actually leads on to one of the other benefits of the Bavaria, and something I really like is the fact that they have this panel which operates all the electrical components up here. So from the horn all the way down to interior lights, to the radio, to the fridge, to the heating, to the putting the water on and off, and even operating the anchor from this point. This is also repeated down below, and down below has a few different options relating to down below, where this one has a few different options relating to up here, like the anchor and the engine blower, for example. The other thing I like about the whole feel of this dashboard is actually the way it's been designed. Bavaria, because it's a mass production outfit, they really take some care actually into doing things that you wouldn't see on lower production boats. And one, for example, is actually this bezel. On a lot of lower production boats, this would be flat, there'd just be holes cut in it, and the instruments would just be placed in. But I really like the fact they've gone to town with actually moulding the bezel in around all the gauges. And I really like this carbon fibre finish as opposed to a wood finish. It gives it a much more modern feel. And it's very well laid out with the chart plotter here, just to hand, the trim tabs here, and we've got also some controls, because this boat is actually fitted with the Volvo Penta D3 160 horsepower engines, and with that, because they're a modern engine, they're controlled by an engine management system, and because they're controlled by an engine management system, we can actually have a digital display which shows the same things that our analog gauges show as well, but also much more. It can actually show graphs of your performance and also your fuel economy, and it can show that as litres per hour, and lots of variations of that, so you can really get a good idea how much fuel you're using. These engines also have come with the electronic control option for the gears, and this enables a very smooth gear change and ease of use of the controls, and the controls are much smaller as well, so it doesn't clutter the area too much. We also have power trim on these, because this has stern drives on the back with duo props, and it has power trim on here. The engines themselves are 2.4 litre diesel engines, and they're actually quite a light block. And in fact, the other engine option for these would be the D4, and the D4s come in at about 480 kilos each, where the D3 engines are actually 220 kilos each. And even though the D4s are much more powerful, so 260 horsepower as opposed to 160, because of the weight difference, actually this boat goes on the plane almost like a rib. It's very, very light at the back, and because of that it does not struggle at all to get on the plane. The downside of the 160s is top speed. Where D4 you might get 35, 36 knots out of this boat, this will do about 32, so it's not dramatic. And in fact this loves to cruise at around 25 knots, which is fast enough for most people just leisurely boating. And we're going to show you this panel again, because what we're going to do now is open up the engine bay and show you the engines, and again it's done electrically by pressing this button. So the engine hatch is electric, like I said, and it has a single ram in the centre, and it lifts relatively quickly. Once the engine hatch is up, I'll show you the generous amount of space in the engine room. It really is generous, and is another advantage of having the smaller D3 engines. Okay, so as you can see, I'm down in the engine bay, and I've got plenty of room. I can even stand up with the hatch up. I can lean down. I can walk around the engines quite happily and do good engine checks. A very generous amount of space between the engines, which again is unusual. Normally you can only get an arm's width in between twin engine installations. Very simple to service engines, and very, very reliable. As I say, I've had this boat for 4 years and I've had no issues with the engines whatsoever. And on average I will do about 50 to 60 hours a year myself. These engines have currently done 900 hours, and which is very, very underused for these type of engines. These engines are actually a car derived engine, well proven in Volvo XC90s. and I really like the layout, the ease to service, and the generosity of space down here. The other thing I like about this boat is a very dry boat. A lot of open boats, you tend to find that water will end up getting into the bilges, but this never has any water in the bilges. It's a very, very dry boat, and I really like that about this boat. We also have, just in front here, is a 500 litre fuel tank, and we have twin fuel filters on here, one here and one just out of shot there, and these are the primary fuel filters for the engines, and then we've got the secondary fuel filters on here as well. And again, very easy to access, to check and to change on servicing. I really like it. One of the previous owners to this boat used to do diving just for pleasure. So he's actually built in dive tank holders here, and there is more storage on this side for various things. In fact, I've got a big bag here with a sail in it, because actually I fit a Walker Bay tender on the back which you can sail, and all the sailing rig is here. The mast is just fitted back here, and also there's an outboard bracket. You can just see the bottom of it here, for fitting an outboard down here as well. So very, very generous on space, and there's also a light down here as well. The other benefit of these engines is their lightness. Now, as you can see, they're physically small. They're aluminium blocked as well. And because of the weight difference, which I explained before, between the D3s and the D4s, bearing in mind the D4s would come to here and it'd be only an arm's width in between, is actually there's almost half a ton in weight difference between the D3s as a collective and the D4s that are the later option. Now, I've worked out that's equivalent to about 6 people, averaging 80 kilos each, actually sat in the back of the boat. And that's why the boat gets on the plane so well, is because we don't have this extra weight in the back of the boat that pulls the back of the boat down. And the last thing I'll show you down here is actually the batteries. As you can see, there's 4, and there's 1 for each engine, 1 for the domestic and 1 for the bow thruster and the windlass. And very easy to access, very easy to top up, and if you do need to remove them for whatever reason as a replacement, they are easy to take out as well. And again, I just re-emphasise the fact there's so much space down here. There's not many boats that are as easy to work on as this one. Down below, it's a very generous amount of space. They do make a slightly bigger version of this boat, and it's called the 33 as opposed to the 32. Now the 33, what that gives you is actually a front cabin with a door. But because it's only a 33 and not a 34, 35, 36, the actual front cabin space is quite tight. And I really like the idea of this space being open. And because it's a hardtop, I generally use upstairs as my living accommodation, and this is now my bedroom suite. And I really like the fact down here there is all this room with the bed as well. As we can see, I've took my shoes off, and there's a reason for that. I'm going to show you the actual bed length, because a lot of people think this bed up the front's quite small, but again, I'm 6 foot tall and I can climb up. Sorry about showing me bottom. And as you can see, again, very, very comfortable up here. And sometimes we sleep this way round, sometimes we sleep this way round. But either way, it's very comfortable, and I can stretch my legs fully out. Very nice area to be. We do have lighting all around, and let me show you, because I do like the lighting in here. And again, on the panel, which I'll show you in a minute, we can turn the lighting switch on, and then we can individually turn lights on all around the boat, and there's lots of them. The lights all project in different areas of the boat. So we've got one in the cockpit area, we've got 2 basically reading lights, and we've got a light over the sink and also a light over the hob. And we can actually see the galley, and we've got a lovely sink area here with a nice tap you can move around. We've got a twin hob, and unusually this is actually a diesel fired hob. Quite unusual to see in a lot of boats, but what this means is that we can use this hob when we're not connected to shore power, so if we're at anchor, but also it means we've got no gas on the boat as well. And a lot of people worry about having gas on your boat, and with this we don't need to worry. It just uses fuel from the main fuel tank to run, so you never have to do anything apart from fueling where you normally put it in, and we can turn it on. It sometimes takes a little bit of time to heat up quickly, so if you're in no rush for a cup of tea, it's a good option, but once it gets going, very, very hot indeed, and works really well. You can actually use it as a second heater in the boat as well. It also comes with two fittings to hold your kettles in place, so you can actually use it whilst you're going along. Also in the galley, it's very, very generous on space. We've got high level cupboards on this side, as well as high level cupboards on this side, as well as high level cupboards all the way along the bed at the front, and also all the way along this side, as well as there's a wardrobe, if not a short wardrobe, with hanging space either side as well. Other storage space, there's actually quite a large cupboard here. We keep the bin in here, but there's also a couple of racks that you can pull out, and we keep some food in there. As I say, this is my boat, and we have some food in there already. There's a vegetable chilli, which I don't recommend it. Also, we've got drawers that we keep our pots and pans in, and one we keep cutlery in, as well as this storage under the table. We've got wine glasses under here, and there's also storage under the seats, and we've got spare bottles of water and some tools under here. Each seat has understore storage, and also there's storage under the floor where we keep most of our secret drinks. Pretty empty at the moment, but we normally hide stuff down there as well. And the other thing I like about the seating down here, it's actually a very comfortable, soft seating, and again we can seat 3 people around here if need be. Quite happy to have our coffee down here in the morning. When it gets dark, it's quite a nice place to be down here. And there's also a television with built-in DVD player down here as well on the wall that you can't see at the moment, but I'll show you that in a moment. This is the TV I was talking about. Quite small, I know, but it works really well. And the TV area is actually on top of the hardtop roof, and it has a built-in DVD player on the side. And there are actually 2 speakers down here as well, just behind the seat back, and it actually controlled using stereo system. Now this is a CD player and tuner, and also has a dock for an iPhone that we can plug in inside here. And in fact, I do have a small iPod which I plug in, and it works through. Also, there's 2 speakers out in the cockpit area either side of the hardtop, so we get music inside and out. The panel as well, as we can see, repeats some of the options that are upstairs. As we can see, there's a few less down here. But we can still turn the heating on and off, and the fridge is on and off. There's also another fridge down here, and it's bigger than the one in the cockpit. As we can see, there's wine and milk to demonstrate. A larger freezer compartment, much more generous on space than the one at the top. So we've got 2 fridges built into here. We've put a combi oven on here. There we can see there's no built-in microwave or built-in oven, so we just normally rely on the hob, but when we're on shore power we do have an option of microwave. If you weren't fussed about a microwave and you get rid of this, then you've got a much larger expanse of worktop area to work on, and it's actually a very generous space. The heating, once you turn it on, is controlled by here, and it's a Webasto heating. The hob is controlled up here, and it's a Wallace diesel hob, and we simply just turn it on up here and it fires itself up, and then we'll take a few minutes to warm up properly. But when we're at anchor, it's brilliant to boil a kettle or cook some lunch, and we love it. Also is the mains trip switches. So this is 2 40-volt switches, and they do various things like the hot water. There is a hot water tank here which heats electrically, but also the engines will heat it up when we're driving, so the hot water is warmed up two ways. We also have the main sockets and shower pump and things like that. Okay, so so that's the main panel there, but we can see there's two doors, and one leads to the heads, which is in here, which I'll show you a bit closer in a sec, and the other one leads into the aft cabin, which is quite a generous size, and we'll show you that in a sec too. But the other thing I wanted to show you was my secret floor drink holder, and if we move this fire extinguisher out of the way and we peel the mat back, there's actually a nice bit of storage under the floor here, and we normally store our drinks and things down there, because when we're not on the boat the fridges are off, but down here stays nice and cool. What I like about the Bavaria motorboats is a lot of the design comes from the yacht side of the production, and if you didn't already know, Bavaria also make yachts, much like Gino and Beneteau do as well. But Bavaria actually brought in very similar woodwork to the yachts, and what I really like about it is actually most of the cabinetry is actually solid wood lined with veneer in the middle, and it's quite unusual to see this. Normally it's all veneered, and all the main cupboard doors, the tops on here and the drawers is actually solid wood and then a veneer underneath. So I actually really like this feature. And also what comes from the yachting is the flooring, and actually under here you may have already noticed that there's actually a lovely teak style floor finish on here as well, and this is throughout and in the aft cabin as well. The carpet here is just to protect it, and it just adds a little bit more warmth, but the carpet is easily removable. Right, so I mentioned the hot water tank, but this boat also has quite a large cold water tank as well, and it'll be unusual, and I challenge people to actually find where it is, because the actual filler is not on the side decks where you'd expect it to be. It's actually in the anchor locker, and where you fill it's in the anchor locker purely because it's actually, the tank is under here. And I've owned boats in the past where the water tanks have been either side of the engines. I've had the water tank one side and I've had the waste or the black water tank the other. And the problem with that, when one is full and one is empty, the boat will lean to one side. And of course you generally have your water tank full and want to keep your waste tank empty. So you always found that it always leant to one side. And the only time it ever level itself out is if we were low on water or full of black waste. But because this water tank is in the bow, it does two things. It evens out the weight, so it doesn't pull the boat one side or the other, so it doesn't list. But also, when it is full, it gives weight to the bow. So again, it actually enables and helps the boat getting on the plane with the extra weight in the bow. It's a really good benefit, and it's accessed underneath the bed and under this cupboard here. Also under here is actually, you can store a cockpit table, which we keep under here as well if you want it out the way, on top of the tank. And in the front hatch here, there's actually the bow thruster, and also there's a bit more storage under here as well, because the bow thruster is right down there, but we've got ample storage above as well. But well, you may think there's actually a light above my head, but there isn't. It's actually because it's actually very light down here, and that's partly to do with the skylights. Now there's one here, there's one there of equal size, and then of course we've got one big round one up the front above the bed. The side windows actually have curtains, but the skylights, they have their own small blinds that pull across. Very easy to do, and of course now completely blocks the light out. And if we want to lighten ourselves back up again, there we go. And very good for privacy. So if we're in here at night, we can shut all the curtains, we can shut the blind in the galley area, shut off the roof hatches, and very, very private in here. Here we are in the aft cabin, and again, I really like this aft cabin. It's a very generous. As we can see, there's another seating area in here. And in fact, the bed, which we'll show you in a sec, is actually king size. We actually know this because we fit a king size sheet and mattress on here and it fits perfectly. So a very, very generous aft cabin. And again, we can see the storage. There's more high-level storage. There's another cupboard here. There's actually storage under here. We keep shoes under here. And also there's another wardrobe, which again, we keep all sorts of things in here as well, including coats, a TV we like to put up in the cockpit, and a couple of bags, and of course an umbrella, because we are in the UK after all. And there's actually two windows in here. There's one here and there's one here. Both we can open up, and it is lovely to have these open to have a nice breeze flow through. As we can see, the flooring comes through here as well. And I'm not sure if you can see this side of the mattress, but again, there's storage under the mattress here, and there's a big amount of space under here as well. As we can see, again, I'm 6 foot, and we've got a lovely amount of room here, and enough for two. Like I say, it's the equivalent of a king size bed. And the other thing I'd like to show you down here is actually this end panel. So if I drop this end panel down, actually all our electrics are in here. Now both the panel we showed you in the saloon and the one up in the cockpit area with all the nice buttons, they all link into this, and all your fuses are actually here in one place. Very good use of space. We also, what you can hear going is the battery charger, and there is actually a 300 watt inverter built into this boat. And in the saloon area there is one plug socket that is just dedicated to that. So the inverter means when we're not on shore power, we still have some 240 volt power from the inverter, and that is up to 300 watts. So great for charging things and small power consumption items. And let me pop that back up. And again, it's quite well insulating, so any noise that was there has now gone. And again, this bed is a very generous size with ample storage underneath. Well, here I am on the toilet. Just to show you, again, there's actually quite a good amount of space in here. On a small boat like this, I say small, it's not the smallest boat I've ever owned, but it's not the largest you'll see. And you'll tend to find there are some restrictions on boats of this size. And one of them is you don't have the benefit of a separate shower. But what I find in here is actually I have showered sat on the toilets, and it's actually quite generous because the actual sink tap comes out to here and we can shower quite nicely down here. Now I'm not sure if we're going to use this footage or not, because it's probably a detriment to the boat, but I just thought I'd mention that point. There is a heating vent in here, and the toilet is actually a manual toilet. And the toilet, if you never used a manual toilet before, you simply manually pump it in and out. That's the water and the waste, of course. And a lot of people convert to electric, which is fine. I've done an electric conversion on a toilet before, and it basically replaced the hand pump to an electric pump. But the problem was it was really, really noisy, and it sounded like a bow thruster almost going off. Very noisy motor, and so everybody knew when you were going to the toilet. It was actually got quite annoying. The actual final straw was actually when we went on a festival on the boat to Yarmouth quite a few years ago, and we had to all raft alongside other boats, and we didn't have access to electric. After the third day, the bow thruster toilet actually started to go flat. The battery started to go flat, and the only way we could use the toilet is by having to run the engine. Because our domestic battery was getting slightly low, and part of the reason it went low was because we were using the toilet all the time, and then when it finally went low, we couldn't use the toilet without running the engine. So we actually converted it back to a manual, because using a manual toilet you don't need any electric or anything. It's actually quite a simple way to operate a toilet. So we went back to it. And now I'm quite happy with a manual toilet, and I won't probably have an electric one again unless I buy a boat that happens to have it, but I certainly won't be converting one again. Right, I'll show you the other bits in here. We'll just change the camera angle. Right, I quite like this toilet as opposed to not having a separate shower, but it is actually quite generous on storage. We have a nice mirror here. There's also a very large mirror here. I'll show you that in a sec. But we have ample storage here. You can see there's my toothbrush and some deodorant. And we've got a nice light above to light up when I want to shave and do my makeup. And also, this is also the shower, which I pulled out just a moment ago, and with the tap. And we've got two holders for glasses. If we want to put our toothbrushes in there, I'm not a big fan of that, or wash my mouth out, I'm not sure about that. But we can put soap in there as well. And also, we have a cupboard down below, and actually the toilet roll holder is in here to stop it getting wet. So if we did decide we wanted to have a shower, it would not get wet in there. And also we have storage for cleaning equipment in there, which of course it is cleaning equipment, so I should keep that clean, but as you can see it's not. But also we have access to the seacocks for the toilet, so that's the inlet and the outlet are both in here as well. So very easy to access if we want to pump our waste out. But this does have a holding tank. So in this cupboard behind, there is actually a large tank, and it starts off down here and goes to here. And this is the black water tank for the toilet. So we do have the option of storing it, and we don't have to pump straight out. And it's actually gravity fed. So when we do want to get rid of the waste, all we have to do is open the seacock. We don't have to press an electric button, we don't have a macerator or anything like that, we don't need any of that. It goes straight in the top. Once it's filled up, we open the seacock and gravity takes it out. So the equipment fitted to this from a navigation point of view is obviously the chart plotter we saw earlier, but also this has a fish finder as well built into it, so a sonar as well as a radar, and a really good feature. Not all boats of this size will have it, in fact not all boats of any size will have it, but I really like having a radar. It's brilliant for when the weather changes, the fog comes in, you can still see where you're going. And in fact, at night time, I probably wouldn't feel comfortable going out on a boat without a radar. Really good feature, works really well. Up here also we have the aerial for the television in the saloon, and there's a GPS aerial which looks like a very small dome just at the other end there, as well as the large VHF aerial. So we get a really good VHF reception on here, and of course we've got the lights, the all-round lights for the anchor, and also the horn just in front. And this other cylinder on top, which you may or may not see, is actually the motor for the electric roof, and the motor is actually hidden under the roof. So it's sandwiched in between two layers of fiberglass, so you can't see it. It's not unsightly. It's actually quite a nice feature to the roof. Right, so one of the last things I want to show you is actually the sterndrives. We can see them here. Luckily the water is quite clear, as it seems to be everywhere at the moment, and we can really see actually the benefit of not having the extended bathing platform, because we can actually see the legs. And if we were unlucky enough to have something get caught around the propeller, we can simply lift them right up and the propeller actually pokes itself out of the water. And it's actually another benefit for having the light engines, because the back of the boat is actually a good 2 or 3 inches higher up out of the water than it would otherwise be. And so we can actually even access the top of the stern drive. And in fact, in the top of the stern drive right here is the dipstick for the oil. So if you were brave enough and there was no waves or wash around, you can actually take that out and check the oil level and condition, even top it up. I have done that myself, but you have to be really careful, because if there's any wash or water comes over it, we're done for. So not ideally recommended, but it can be done. And I really love that feature about this. We can also see the anodes as well on top of the cavitation plates. This one is actually getting quite low, and I can change it in the water. I don't need to take the boat out to change the anode. And also I can change the propellers in the water. I've done it before. They don't have to lift the boat out to change a propeller if it gets damaged. So there are benefits to not having this extended bathing platform and having the lighter option engines for maintenance purposes. Also here we've got 2 snap davits, and I think I said earlier we have I've got a Walker Bay tender that clips onto there and lifts up, and we tie it onto the back of the boat. very nice feature having the snap davits, and as you can see they're off to one side, so it still gives you access onto the side of the bathing platform, so it doesn't block it off completely. And the last thing, obviously we've got a bathing ladder, an extendable bathing ladder under here. Pretty normal to most boats, but I thought I'd show you that anyway. Right, so I guess when you're back on your mooring, everyone hates that Sunday afternoon, dropping all the covers on, doing all the covers back up, closing everything up. I just want to show you how easy that is to do on this boat. So the windows are open, the roof is open, and the covers are off. So let me show you how quick it is to get it all buttoned up. Right, here we go. So we'll do the two windows. We'll close the roof. Bearing in mind it could be raining as well, so we'll get the roof shut. I'll probably get this bit sped up just a sec, but we'll put real time on it so you can see. That's the roof shut, and now all we need to do is drop the covers down, zip them. I'll do it properly so I'm not cutting any corners for you, just to show you how easy it is. And then just a few clips. The whole back cover comes down and pop out. The whole rear cover comes down. Zip up there. Zip up there. Clip that on. And we just have, there's not loads of poppers. It's just a couple of simple straps. Nice and easy. Like that. And then put on the bottom poppers. And then off to the pub, if we're allowed to. So this is the Bavaria 32 hardtop. Now I hope now, once you've seen this video, you appreciate the hardtop for what it is. I in fact really love this hardtop, and I'd find it very, very hard now to go back to a soft top boat. And it's faffing around with covers. If you've ever owned an open boat before, faffing around with covers all the time, and it really annoys me. And so the hardtop is an ideal year-round boat, and I hope you now appreciate it as much as I do. And don't forget, this boat is for sale through my brokerage, Parker Adams Boat Sales. And we've also done a drone video of this boat, and if you follow the link below, you can access that. It shows you more pictures and also the drone video that we've took as well of the performance of the boat. So thank you for watching, and speak to you again soon.